It's not a bad thing. Okay? There's a pitfall there that you need to avoid, which is saying your idea is not always the best idea in the world. Not only is it not always the best idea in the world, you don't know it now, but your idea will change. Once your team gets together and starts doing things, your ideas always change, and they have to change. If your ideas are not changing, you're not an entrepreneur. Because the technology space, and this is particularly in the technology space is changing. Every month, the technology landscape is different. All right? So your ideas need to keep up to speed with that technology, with that change of technology. A good example is Sony. I've already put it up here. How many people know that Sony's first product, the first, and Sony guys got together. Chalo yaar, Sony banate hain, right? The multinational giant of the 80s and 90s. Now it's kind of dwindling, but nevertheless, Sony is Sony. They made bean sauce. The founder said, "यार मुझे bean sauce बनानी है क्योंकि जापान में bean sauce अच्छी नहीं मिलती." All right? और फिर इस बीन सॉस को चावल के साथ पकाने के लिए मैं राइस कुकर बनाऊंगा. All right? And both their products totally failed. From there, they reiterated, they tried. There are many other examples. HP, the computers that you guys use, and so on and so forth. Their first product was one of the first products was a, bowling आप करने जाते हैं, right? उसकी एक foul line होती है. Okay, अब वो आप cross करें तो foul हो जाता है. That was their first claim to fame. These are Stanford, serious graduates, Hewlett and Packard, that have buildings named after them, made a bowling foul line as their first product, right? So the point I'm trying to make really is that when you're doing entrepreneurship, you have an idea that's excellent and gets you motivated, you want to go, you want to start, experiment with your idea quickly and eliminate your ideas even quicker than that. Nahi chala, don't hang on to it, don't go, oh yaar, mera wo idea, yaar, ye blah, 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 blah. Don't stick to it, don't be bullish. Be ready to innovate and change, okay? So let's say you've got your idea. This slide has a lot of information. But you got your team, you got yourself, you got your team, you got your idea. Now you're like, okay, fine, dude, let's get going. Me and my homies are going to get into a room and we're going to make this awesome product, okay? This is now a problem. Because the first question you're going to ask yourself when you guys get into a room, पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे? पैसे कहाँ से आने वाले हैं? Okay? It's a terrible question. It is the death of entrepreneurship. It's also a very important question, okay? But because that's the only question you're asking, you're not asking the question कि भाई मैं अच्छी चीज कैसे बनाऊं? How do I add value? How do I make my customers happy? How do I change the world? How do I do something cool? How do I do something socially satisfying? You're not asking any of those questions. You're asking, how do I make money? Okay? That's not a bad thing. It's not an unimportant thing. It's not the only important thing. Because of that, the problem is that to really start entrepreneurship in a good way, in a way where you can actually add value, you need to be able to raise capital upfront. The only purpose of raising capital upfront, or one of the key purposes, is to take away that pressure from you so you start asking the right questions. You can focus on the product, all right? You need to be able to raise that money upfront, that venture capital, that risk capital that's out there, okay? A good example is Facebook. They made Facebook. Facebook wasn't profitable. They didn't make any money. They had billions of users. They didn't make any money until recently. Until recently, where they figured out their business model. Another example is Twitter. I think Twitter is still not making money. All right? So companies add a lot of value, but they don't. The business model in which you actually make money from that value is a morphing thing. PayPal morphed their business model 100 times before they figured out the right sweet spot on which to make money. So the problem is that because we have a hard time raising money, and I'll talk about that in a bit, we start asking that wrong question, and inevitably, because you have to answer that question, you have to pay that salary, everybody starts to sell the first thing they can sell. And what is that? It's human capital. You and 4 people are in a room. What can you sell? You can sell your time. And that is why all our companies tend to move towards services. Chalo yaar, flan banne ka project pakadte hain aur wo project kar lete hain. That's not a bad thing, okay? But it's not innovative. You're not changing this landscape around you. You're not changing the world. I mean, yes, you're adding at a secondary and third level and so on and so forth. As you can see, I'm not a services guy. I'm a product guy, and there's a reason for that, because I want to make a change and an impact. But this is the age-old debate that I have with people that I speak with, services versus products. Unfortunately, because of the lack of a funding ecosystem, companies in Pakistan are forced to do services, and because of that, we don't tend to innovate. So if you guys are trying to start a company or thinking about it, don't think about that first line. Think about your product and think about raising your money. What options do you have to raise money? And I'm speeding up through this so we can actually have a good Q&A session. The first important fact is that not only in Pakistan, but in a large part of the developing world, venture capital is not available. Okay? There's multiple reasons for that. You can't go and blame the venture capitalists for not being present in countries like Pakistan. There's no legal system here to support venture capital. There's no capital market in which you can actually have a good buyout and a good exit strategy. All right? The human capital that you require, the people, the talent that you require to feed your entrepreneurial ventures is very limited in these areas. All right? So for many of these reasons, venture capital will not exist in developing countries in the true form that it does in the developed world, at least for a while. Right? That is the reality that you live in. So you need to understand that. You don't actually go and get venture capital. Now, what are your options in Pakistan if you were to go and raise in money? If you want to go raise money, well, the best option in Pakistan, unfortunately, is your friends and family. Go talk to your friends, go talk to your family, go ask people and convince them, yaar, main ye bahut chikni cheez bana raha hu aur scene on hone wala hai, right? And if you can convince them of that and they can give you their money, well and good. That's a great place to start, okay? Or you talk to angels. I have an angel for you. He's sitting right here, okay? So an angel is in the investment terms, an angel is a wealthy / successful individual who has some money in their bank account that has made it through some means or the other and is willing to fork out a small amount to assist you. This angel may or may not know much about your venture, all right? But they believe in you. They're your friend, or you know them, or they're your family member, or for some reason or the other, you've managed as an entrepreneur to convince them कि यार आप मुझे $1 lakh देंगे, मैं आपको 1 million बना के दे दूंगा, किसी तरह से दे दूंगा, right? That is probably your second best bet beyond friends and family. And there are these angels. Unfortunately, these angels in Pakistan in particular are real estate tycoons generally. So you go to them with a, hey यार मेरे पास फ्लां DHA में 40 प्लॉट मिल रहे हैं 10% डिस्काउंट पे, they will fork out crores immediately. You won't even know where it came from. It'll just come. It'll fall from the sky, right? But you tell them, hey, I want to do something where I have this technical venture and value. They don't know how to value these things. But that's your second option. And then your third option in Pakistan, of course, is to build a services company. That's it. I mean, those are the ways you can raise money in Pakistan as far as my understanding goes, okay? In our particular case, I invested all my life savings into Mindstorm Studios. My mother sold her car and they came to Pakistan. My brother sold whatever he had in Dubai. He came here. We put in everything that our family owned into making this venture, all right? That was how we started off. We went with option A. I didn't go to angels. I didn't go to build a services company or anything. I said, we're going to still make a product, but we're going to do it by selling everything we own and really try and make this happen, okay? So that's the funding part of things. And that's not always easy, but yeah, so the key takeaway is money is really hard to come by. Okay, this slide is a little noisy, but it's an important slide. This is important for you to understand where you're sitting, okay? You're sitting in the LTP, I understand that, and it's all nice and pretty, but it's not nice and pretty outside of the LTP. And here's how it is, okay? So, where's the mouse? Yeah, here. All right. So there's you. You got your team together. All right. You got some idea that you kind of want to work on, but it's a work in progress. You can iterate. You got some chump change from some guy in Pakistan who's foolish enough to invest in your idea, right? How do you actually put this all together, right? How do you use this ecosystem to say, I want to compete? Well, wake up, man. Who are you competing against? Let me tell you who you're competing against. This is who you're competing against. This is the developed world right here. These people have hordes of people to hire. They have entrepreneurs popping up left, right, and center, 13-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds making millions. Today, there are multiple examples of that. They have a very healthy and striving ecosystem of finance that funds these people. All right? They have ideas because people are working together and in the same vicinity and everyone's switched on. I have an idea. I can talk to 100 people about it. Those 100 people will convert my idea into something 10 times better than what I thought. How many of you actually go and talk to 100 people about your ideas, right? You don't, because in Pakistan, there aren't 100 people to talk to about your ideas that can give you valid feedback. Okay? Moreover, in this ecosystem, there's the facilities themselves, all right? And I don't know if you guys can see that, right? But over here, you have a bunch of stuff: electricity, transport, infrastructure, legal, I don't know, pani, doodh wala, whatever drives you, a generator, right? That's all. It's not even a thought. Sochna bhi nahi padta. It's there. Ye to hai, right? You're just starting off, hitting the ground running. In Pakistan, none of that is available, right? I could put Zardari's picture there, and that's fine. And yes, I said it in a political forum. Excuse me, but that's really what the situation is, all right? And then this is all of us poor guys kind of working in this place, kind of trying to struggle, okay? This is the reality of where you are, all right? And you have to understand that. So when you want to go and try and be an entrepreneur, understand your environment around you. Understand that when you can't raise money, what the problems are. Understand that when you can't find the right people to work with, why you can't find them, and what kind of stuff you're going to approach, right? So the takeaway is entrepreneurship generally is really hard. Really hard. It's like the hardest thing that I've ever done personally, and I've done a lot of hard things. And if you think it's hard to a level of 10, multiply that by 10 more. It's harder than that also. And in Pakistan, it's even harder, okay? So that's my takeaway from this, right? And the last vertical that I had up there was luck. Okay, so all of this is fine. You got your team. Oh yeah. So by the way, I did want to say this, right? In this slide, but all hope is not lost. Okay, I'll tell you why all hope is not lost. I'll tell you why. All right. You see this guy right here. If you are an entrepreneur, that means you have said to yourself, you will do whatever it takes to make it happen. Man, you will do anything to make this happen, okay? Your team members have said that too. And there is no equivalent and no putting down the human spirit. That is why entrepreneurship works in Pakistan. There's no other reason, all right? It's human spirit that says, I am going to make this system into that system one way or the other, okay? And I don't know how good you are. You don't know how good you are. Unless you start it and unless you try it, you don't know that you can do this. But you get into it and you do it, and you're like, yaar, scene on ho gaya tha. That's really what happened with us, okay? So that's the variable that fights this particular situation, okay? Along with that, of course, there's the luck factor. Now, what's the luck factor? So there you are, nice and blue. There's your team, and there's all the stuff we spoke about. You need to be able to get from there into a company like this, all right? As an example. So that's you got your idea, you managed to raise that money, and you got this team together, all right? In this equation, going from that point to this point, what variable do you control? You control just yourself. You can do whatever you want to do. You don't control the team. You don't control all the business spaces that develop the ideas. You don't control the funding structure, right? You control yourself. What are the chances that you run into that team member? What are the chances that you thought of the right idea? What are the chances that you found that investor, right? So in going from here to here, your game essentially is to say, how do I optimize or minimize my probability of failure in a techie angle? Or how do I make sure I can meet the right people? That is why for an entrepreneur, being social is important. If you sit in your room and do nothing, you will never meet that team member. You will never meet that investor. You will never get that right idea because you're not meeting enough people to bounce these ideas off. You just exist in your own microcosm, all right? So you got to go out there. It's like literally like a snooker table, right? And if this ball on the snooker table is kind of hanging out in the corner, it's not doing anything. You got to put it into the mix so that it bounces off of multiple things. That's the key idea, right? But let's say you managed to be lucky enough to meet these people and you persevered and so on and so forth, right? And you formed this. Now, your next task is, this company needs to make this product, okay? So you thought that you'll be able to make this product, right? But again, you don't control all the variables. What if your key team member leaves? What if you run out of money? What if, I don't know, 100 things happen, all right? A lot of things need to work correctly for you to be able to achieve this. Let us say you manage to achieve that as well, right? So keep in mind, you started off as an entrepreneur saying, हाँ यार, मुझे ये एक चीज बनानी है और पैसे मिलने वाले हैं, right? After this, this is where the fun really begins. So when we started, we thought, यार, product बन जाएगा तो बस scene on हो जाएगा. It's all going to be good and all going to be happy, right? We managed to fight the odds and make this. What we found out was that the toughest thing in product development is not the creation, because that is still somewhat controllable. It's actually what happens after the creation. This cloud here is the real world. You don't control anything in the real world. You don't control the market. You don't know if there's a competitor coming in with the product at the same time. You don't know if the iPhone comes out. That happened with us, all right? We spent 3 years making like a cricket PC game, and by the time we were done, the entire gaming landscape had changed. An iPhone was out. Nobody cared about PC games, all right? You don't control these things. And if this all works out for you, only then will you be successful, that you can manage. So this is the reason why coming together. So you don't just jump from here, idea आ गया, चलो जी successful हो जाएंगे, इस तरह नहीं है.